Hello, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to the first episode of season 2 of the BC Wrestle podcast, if you will. We actually do the podcast here. It's not just part of our whole entire thingamajig. We are here to provide you with the first episode of season 2 this evening, which is the worst promos in wrestling history. So before I get it right, I'm so excited. So before I discuss what that entails, if you are not familiar outside with what this actually is, we, outside of our pay-per-view reviews and the weekly show reviews, once a month, we get together to do something wrestling related for a podcast episode. And this is where we just have a great time and just do silly nonsense. So for those of you who are of a certain age, think of this as Silly Songs with Larry. But instead of a cucumber, it is two Puerto Ricans who are muy bad. It's good. I cannot wait. And then we're going to talk about whatever we want. Why? Because this is our show and not yours. I have to channel my inner Katya and Trixie Mattel. Love those two drag queens to death. But before we get into all of that, make sure that if you like what you see on your screen, please say hi and let us know because we need the validation. I'm just kidding. No, we love having interaction here when we do, whether it be reviews for pay-per-views, weekly shows, or other things like our podcasting episode. And we love having that interaction with you all. And so if you like what you see here on YouTube and Twitch and you want to, get a little bit more for your, dollar, which is non-existing because we don't charge you to watch us. It's a great time. You can go check out our social medias where we do weekly report cards for the shows, the pay-per-views. You can see social media clips of our big old heads talking about wrestling. And sometimes they're out of context and they are great. Indeed. You can also buy some merch from us from our Spring Tees store. Link in the description below. We got sweaters, hoodies, t-shirts, stickers. It is fantastic. Mugs. It is great. And so just check us out. It's a lot of fun. But of course, tonight I can't do this alone. As I mentioned, my good hermano, my Puerto Rican brother, Adolfo, is here in the building, who you can find him doing lots of things around here in BC WrestlePod. He is a man of infinite talent, and we are masters of none.
I do nothing around here except occupy space. I don't know what you're talking about.
Also, and holding it down with me, too, because low-key, you guys, Adolfo helps me with a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm like, Adolfo, I need your help.
Fair. Yeah. Except this upcoming, this upcoming weekend when I'll be on vacation.
So. Which is well-deserved. And thankfully, we figured out a contingency plan so Adolfo doesn't have to take his laptop with him on vacation. Because I would never do that to him. And even if he had to, I wouldn't tell him anyways. So I would be like, how'd it go? Yeah, we figured it out. In reality, it was a hot mess. No, but me and Adolfo are good. I'm so excited. Tonight's going to be such a great episode. So tonight, for the premiere of season 2 of BC WrestlePod, we are here with our episode entitled Promo Nightmares, the worst promos in wrestling history. So wrestling on televisions have been going on for a while is the best way to put it. From the 70s to the 60s, and also there's this upcoming movie talking about women's wrestling in the 30s, which I'm so excited for. Queen of the Ring. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait for that one. But part of the wrestling business, especially since its inception of being able to be televised to homes across the Americas and the world, we get to witness our favorite wrestling characters cut promos against each other and on certain events coming up. And the promos are there to kind of gauge us, to add story elements, to show us character work from our favorite characters. But just as there's so many good ones, there is also so many bad ones. So why not have a great time by focusing on the not so great ones? Because, again, I said this whole entire week, Steiner Math was up for grabs if anyone wanted to do that. Because, honestly, it can go into the worst or the best promo.
Steiner Math is one of those promos that, at first, when you watched it, it was just a flaming train wreck. You're like, what is he on about? But then, over time, it's become a joke onto itself. So,
So we are going to be taking and looking and talking about some bad ones. A couple of picks we're going to first go through those. I'm pulling an Andrew and I have video evidence from us in action. So I have made sure to be following the guidelines so we don't get copyrighted. So we should be okay. We're going to find out tonight if we are. And then after we talk about the promos, stick around because we're going to just talk about anything that we feel like when it comes to wrestling. So Dolfo has 3 different topics for us to talk about, which I'm super excited about because I have no clue. And chaos is how we thrive here on this channel.
So
Adolfo is one kid who is part of the group project who does their work, but somehow manages to do the wrong thing, but it also is the right thing at the same time. And somehow you manage to bullshit our way through the project to get a B, which I'm not going to complain about. C's get degrees, children. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. So I cannot wait. So I'll go, it'll be me, you, and then I'll end with my third one. So when I put this prompt out to all of my co-hosts about promos, I thought to myself, there have been some really bad promos, but I don't just want to focus on the ones that were just like, yeah, this is when I stopped wrestling type of bad promos. There are one of those later on in my catalog of 3 that I'm going to show. But I thought to myself, there's also been some hilarious. It's bad, but so I made a short list. I thought about it to myself, what am I exactly going to show? So what I ended up going through for all my choices, I went through the eras because I didn't want to pick anything recent because I don't want my co-host to say, oh, he doesn't know the ways of wrestling. Trust me. If anything, Minnie has taught me very well of the history of wrestling. So I've been getting my history lessons from him. But my first bad promo actually comes from way back in the day. And
Sexy Lexi. Okay, here we go.
Sexy Lexi.
So is it WCW? What do we got?
It might, we're just going to play the clip and we'll play the clip.
Right on.
Mr. Luger, I saw what just happened out there with Ron Killens. I just want to ask you, what are your plans for the next show, Super Brawl Saturday? Are you going to take care of Ron Killens?
What kind of disgusting, despicable lack of respect is that Billy What's-His-Name show booking a match for the total package Lex Luger and Super Saturday? What is it? I don't know what it's called. What is it called? Super Brawl Saturday? Can he afford to pay me to wrestle Ron? I don't know. I'm one of the biggest legends and stars ever in this. God! And you took 2 tight too, Billy, and you book a match with me against Ron Killens? Look at me. I'm a total package. I will rip him apart. I'm pissed now.
I don't think I'd...
Wow. You dug deep for that. You dug really deep for that one.
Oh, listen, I spent whole entire week looking for this free on the internet. And thank goodness I found it. But this is my first choice. Like when you want to talk about oh my goodness. Okay, so where do we even start? So obviously Lex Luger, very prominent. Go for it.
Yeah. One of the things that Lex Luger did build his reputation on is the whole Sexy Lexi thing. As you saw, he was jacked. And, this was during the time that certain performance enhancing drugs were not tested on. He did do time in WWE, and he also did do independent promotions, as we saw on this one. Go ahead, Mikey.
So, it's as Adolfo said, Lex Luger is synonymous for Sexy Lexi, and he also, is best known for his work if Jim Crockett Promotions, again, when the wrestlings were more territorial than anything. He was also in WCW and WWF. So for this specific one, Lex Luger just needed to cut a promo, to promote the upcoming event. Like it went off the rails. Lex Luger stuttered over what he was supposed to say. He couldn't remember the name of the event. And then the best part of this whole entire backstage promo vignette is he was complaining about the t-shirts and he couldn't get it off. These t-shirts are too tight, Billy. Oh my gosh. This was unhinged in the best way possible. And I loved it.
Yeah, but it's funny seeing that because normally Lex Luger was one of those individuals whose promos weren't like that, if you will. When he would come out, his big thing was posing and looking big. And when he was on the mic, he never got excited like that. You guys that on that one?
No, I just thought this was a fun one to start with. Just because of how unhinged it was. But the next 2, I actually did put some like more serious about it thought into it. I was like, you know what? These are the things that either made me uncomfortable or downright made me mad as a wrestling fan. So we'll get to mine. So go for it.
Really quick on that one though. Do you think that was just like 5 minutes before the promo? They're like, "Hey Lex, you got to cut this promo," or do you think that some other things were affecting Lex's performance? Because as history, if you look up Lex Luger, he is one of those sad tales, with the performance enhancing drugs and, a bunch of other things that back in the day, it's what wrestlers would do to make it, from match to match. So Mikey, what do you think?
So I think specifically, I feel like it could a little column A, a little column B. I feel like Lex was asked like really quickly, be like, "Hey, I need you to do this real quick for me." So whatever mood he was in, it was there, but Lex just made it 10 times funnier just for the things he decided to choose as far as like actions for him to do, and just a series of unfortunate events that definitely made it funnier. Like fumbling over his words, couldn't remember the name of the event, couldn't get the t-shirt off. Is probably the best physical comedy I could ever ask for when it comes to a promo.
And then the dude at the end just burst out laughing. That was
he couldn't. He's just like, he knows that was soda. So I wanted to start with something light because this was hilarious. So good. Now I give Mike. Go for it.
I thought you were gonna you me, then you me.
I know. I was gonna pass the baton or just touch the tip. So it is now your turn. So Adolfo, what is your number one pick?
So it's a good thing that we started with something light because my first selection is not so light. And unlike Mikey, I chose big bulk, right? Because some wrestlers are good on the mic, or whoever, writes their stuff is good. And even on their bad days, they're good. But then some were just horrible and thought that they were the best. I think that a prime example of this was every Vince McMahon promo in the whole Attitude Era. Taking what we know now, like dissecting that and, trying to dissect, looking at it from a 2000s lens, watching them in real time, because that was my first, that I dare say my silver age of wrestling, right? They were just bad. Anytime Vince McMahon, his music hit and he did that dumbass walk out to the ring, you just knew, I'm going to use my one curse word, you just knew fuckery was about to happen, And I'm not talking about good stuff. And they wasted I felt the one where he chastised his own mother, the one, I believe he made her like strip, all the, whenever he brought I forgot his name, but he would bring them out and like, and just degrade them, the Pat Patterson, where like, he would bring them out and just like degrade them, it just like, it was just hard. They were just horrible. They were tough to watch. On the flip side of that, it was always great when you did have a wrestler then that flipped it on Vince and just made him look like the complete fool that he is. Like you're the Stone Cold, Steve Austin, The Rock promos, Mankind promos. Those I felt because Vince would come out and just do such a crap job with his promos that when it came time for those promos, it made them shine that much more. You got anything to add with that, Mikey?
No, I just that, yeah, all those Vince promos were so bad.
They're so bad.
And I'm just like, anytime he opened his mouth, it's just like, it's like the GTA San Andreas meme. It's like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yep. So that was my first choice.
Yeah, so piggybacking off yours, while my second choice is not necessarily a Vince promo, this is definitely a storyline that Vince concocted. So I want to take you back to the mid 2000s of WWE, where, we have Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and Chris, he who shall not be named Voldemort kind of things going on. The men's division was really thriving. We also had Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, Booker T, all that good stuff. And then, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but Mickie James ended up becoming champion towards the tail end of her run with the WWE, in her first run, I should say. And she had just entered a feud with Lay Cool. So Michelle McCool and Layla and all of them. If anybody remembers where I'm about to go with this, I apologize in advance because Adolfo mentioned Vince. This is a Vince idea. Does anybody remember the term Piggy James happening? Yeah, so I'm just gonna let this clip play for itself, and then we'll talk about it because I have some things to say. Now, granted, I found this video on the internet. Somebody had posted like this was not cool. What happened? So there's a little bit of an intro. And then it plays the segment. So like
Piggy! Hey, Piggy James! Over here! Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Mickey. I've got something for you. Michelle McCool had a farm, E-I-O. And on that farm, she had a pig, E-I-E-I-O. With an oink oink here and oink everywhere. Sorry, Piggy James. We warned you.
I don't mean to laugh, but you don't.
There you
I don't know what happened, but
that
God, I forgot.
That was uncomfortable.
Yes, yeah. So, fun fact. Again, this is all Vince's idea, to nobody's shock and a grin. So it wouldn't be until much, much, much later, because Mickie James, cried like this was horrible. This whole entire feud with Lay Cool was all about physical appearance, because then they would go on to have Layla dressed in like a very inflated pig suit with Mickie James on it. It was kind of ridiculous. Then they forced her to eat cake, like gave her all like these pig foods kind of slops and stuff. It was kind of crazy. And the sad part is that the girls were troopers, and Mickie James ended up being let go by the end of this too. She didn't get a chance to overcome it. It was done. And where we thought we were going something, she got let go. So we didn't get any resolution. And it wouldn't be until years later we come to find out, because Mickie James has a podcast with her and Victoria and Gail Kim. And she had Lay Cool on. And so Lay Cool gave us some tea talking about how they were also uncomfortable with the whole situation and time. The whole point of this program was to get Lay Cool to be this big heat magnet heels. And so it ended up working because the crowd was not having it. And I'm like, shout out to early 2000s wrestling fans. Even then, y'all had some morals, and some things are like, yeah, no, not sure about this. So yeah, but I was like, when I was doing my research and I found this clip, I was like, oh gosh, I have to put it on here, because I remember watching this when I was super young, not knowing what this is, but be like, I feel bad for Mickie. I can't put into words why. And now it's just like, because we body shamed her. I was like, how dare you? It was just icky. And this was the kind of shit that the women had to deal with when Vince was in charge of the storylines. I'm just like, it was a whole bunch of sexualization. And then this is a program that evolved around a topic that does not need to be utilized. So yeah, my second choice was the Piggy James promo / storyline. It was a choice, and I'm glad that all the women were able to get through it, because man, that was a rough one.
Podcast in itself. I mean, hell, they made a Netflix special about it. So, so it wasn't, and this is not trying to like downplay this at all, but it wasn't just Mickie James. Hell, there were some male wrestlers as well that had to deal with that type of nonsense, and it is a shame that Mickie James got let go, and so she wasn't able to get any sort of redemption off of that, and wrestling promos is always, it's not as easy as people think, and I believe that this is a prime example of it, if you're being a heel, because there is a way to get what we call cheap heat, which is, so for the uninitiated, heat in wrestling is when you garner, dare I say, negative response from the audience, boos, hisses, that sort of thing. When you are what's known as a heel, which in wrestling is a bad person, right? Or the antagonist, if you will, in Lucha Libre, known as Ruda, you want that heat, because for you, heat is your praise, your applause. It's how you're doing something right. And it is always so such a razor's edge of what's good heat and what's bad heat. This is a prime example of just tipping over way over and just like bad heat to the point that it just doesn't even become heat, And that's just that's a good example of that. Good one.
Yeah. And like I said before, the girls would come out later saying that this was something that they all did not want to do. But shout out to Mickie James, because she's like, I absolutely hated this, but this was giving us women screen time. And so we were going to take advantage of it and make the most of it. So thankfully, the crazy part is Mickie would come back years later to get another run in WWE. And another incident is what also sparked a lot of people to kind of like distance himself from WWE. Because then when she got let go again, and they gave Mickie James all her stuff in black trash bag. And so she posted about it on the internet, and the internet was not having it. It got so bad, I think it ended up leading to some executive backstage getting fired because of the incident. I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah, not good.
So, all right, Dolfo, what do you got for your number 2?
So for my number 2, I'm actually switching companies, and I'm going to AEW. And the QTV promos.
Oh God,
were just bad, rambling, like wastes of time, wastes of talent, and it just, and what made it even worse is that they would have these promos, right, that you think are setting up for a story, but then wouldn't go anywhere, which it's interesting because and this was only in 2023, right? 2023, 2024, or and end of 2022, 2023. That's when we have the whole QTV thing going, right? Fast forward 2024, QTV breaks up, right? QT Marshall has a match that had no right to be as good as it was with Big Boom AJ, right? At the tail end of 2024, beginning of 2025?
Tail end of 2024, because that was the final match on the Full Gear 0 hour card.
Right. Yep. And has been building upon that. Who was another one that was involved with that whole QTV thing.
God, he got away.
Yeah, is now, cutting great promos, just
fights in the parking lot. It's great.
Yep. Johnny TV.
Thank gosh, she
cut fantastic promos, right? Especially, his recent work with MXM. Who can forget his work with Dalton Castle? And hey, let's get out of here, Johnny TV style.
Yes,
it's a thing now, right? But the biggest one, who I feel has just made the turnaround, is Harley Cameron, who during those QTV segments was just playing the sexy desk lamp trope. And it was horrible, right? And I admit, like, she annoyed the what out of me. And I was like, why is this person on my TV? Fast forward to 2024 and the work that she's putting in. And now, like, her promos are gold. And I'm sorry, Harley, that I ever had those thoughts, because now I feel like she's fantastic, to the point that come Grand Slam Australia, I really want them to put that TBS belt on Harley Cameron. So,
oh, absolutely. Harley's getting herself involved in some really, really fun stuff. I mean, we might eventually get the Mercedes Harley Cameron match. It seems that she also seems to have a secondary feud right now going on with Deonna and the, Vendetta, which makes me excited. I'm like, finally, we get to see Taya and Deonna do more, which is fantastic. So I'm excited. Yeah, QTV was, oh my gosh. QTV was not great. And the fact that they were trying to parody like TMZ, who is also a horrible company, like for news reporting and stuff like that in general. But it was a dumb idea. I'm glad everyone is kind of doing still pretty well for themselves. Aaron Solo's in Ring of Honor. QT is doing his thing. He just had a championship match for Commander's Ring of Honor Television Championship, which was a really good match. Powerhouse Hobbs is out here fighting Large William in the parking lot and causing fist fights, which is great. And even though he didn't get to win the title from Mox at Maximum Carnage, it was still great showing. And they continue to put him on TV. Harley Cameron is probably my favorite to come out of all of this. And Johnny TV's also as well. Like, the concept and the promos were garbage, but I'm glad that it worked out for everybody in the end once everyone got, moved their separate ways. So Thank goodness. I'm glad that QTV did not stick around for another season. We'll just put it at that.
I think really quick. I think the one promo that sticks out in my mind is the one where they sent out Harley Cameron. It was when they were trying to start beef with the Acclaimed.
Yes, I remember.
And Harley comes out, and she was trying to
seduce the wrong Acclaimed member.
Yeah, she was trying to seduce Anthony Bowens, and he
literally goes, it's like,
yeah,
have you met who I am? It's just like,
right, yeah.
And then the crowd goes behind, it's like, he's gay.
He's right. But now, like, fast forward, and like Harley is kind of sort of becoming a symbol of LGBTQ bi.
Oh, she is so coded. It is amazing. You cannot tell me, you cannot sit here and tell me that her Mariah May were just a little bi-curious or bisexual, if you will. Especially when they named their match that they had like 2 weeks ago, like Hot Girl Graps. I was just like,
right, exactly.
Like, oh my.
Exactly. So, this is one of those instances that I feel like they've learned from their mistakes and have come out better because of it. So
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I forgot that I had purged QTV from my mind. So thank you for taking us back down to that trip of memory lane. So I'm going to end our promo section before we get into our hot topics. So this third choice, I'm gonna just be honest, I picked this because I remember how much it pissed me off as a wrestling fan back then. So this was in like the pinnacle high point period of like the 2010s WWE, where Raw and SmackDown were struggling for life, everybody. Every week was just some shenanigans. This was the years of WWE where script changed before the show went on the air, like ripping up ideas, segments getting shelved, matches getting canceled, last minute additions. Like, this was truly a playground for Vince to do whatever he felt like. And to give a little context before I play the clip, so during this time, there was a pay-per-view known as Battleground / Breaking Ground, whatever you want to call it. So by far, and this is not hyperbole, this is fact, this is one of the worst WWE pay-per-view because it was just a nothing pay-per-view. It was a stupid name because it was like Battleground, which is unfortunate because when you think of Battleground, you would think the matches would all be about people fighting their foes and everything, but it was just booty cheeks. I don't know what was worse, the Battleground pay-per-view or just for the mere fact there was a pay-per-view that would later become known as Great Balls of Fire, if we all remember that time at WWE. And this was the 2010s. So this was like some 10 years ago. So Battleground was booty cheeks. Like, the matches were not great. And so come the Monday Night Raw after this, Triple H is in the authority heel character arc in the moment. And then he goes about doing this promo, basically poking fun at this. I'm going to just play the clip and we'll discuss afterwards. So here we go.
Now, I'll admit, I am very mad today. I am madder than I have ever been in a long time, but I have options on how I handle this. I have options. I'm going to tweet my displeasure. That's right. I'm going to jump on social media and I'm going to tweet about it until my fingers bleed. I might even send an Instagram or a Vine. That's right. Or you know what? I could relax knowing that sooner or later, I always win.
You cannot tell me that was not Vince.
Oh, 100%. And poor Triple H was the vehicle for all of this. But the point being is that this promo pissed me off so much from Triple H because essentially this promo said, "Is exact. We heard the negativity. We hear the discourse online, and we just gave you." And WWE just sat there giving these to everybody and just stuck the middle finger up and just said, "Fuck all of y'all." I was like, we make millions of dollars. There's nothing you can do that is going to change how we operate things. And you know what happened? It bit WWE in the ass because once this promo aired, they dipped in the ratings for weeks and months after this. Like, there are friends of mine that from this promo, they stopped watching the WWE product until years later. And I almost quit watching WWE during this time, but I didn't. And the only reason why is because I'm a masochist, apparently. No, but there were just too many people that I liked. I was like, I don't want to just up and leave, but I will just say, if I missed a couple Monday Night Raws or SmackDowns, it wasn't the end of the world the way. Because literally, I could just read a recap and I would figure out what's going on. Because also at this time, storytelling in WWE was also absolute booty cheeks in the 2010s. God, it was so awful. It was like a drought out here. But yeah, Triple H, I'm glad that he is not like this now.
Paul, not Triple H, but how Paul Levesque is now, like, when he looked at now, he's like this perfect savior angel of WWE, you know?
And I think that was a tribute too, because towards the end of the 2010s, when the Authority as an on-screen character went away, so did Triple H. He went more to the, background. Also, this was around the time where he and Shawn Michaels got the great idea to, run something called Black and Gold NXT as well. So I'm going to tell you, if Paul did not go help Shawn with Black and Gold era of NXT, I don't think people would be so easily to kind of push this aside of Triple H's like character work and just Triple H in general. Because Triple H went away and we got Paul Levesque in NXT Black and Gold. Him and Shawn probably created some of the best wrestling at the time. And of course, like every good thing that happens for us wrestling fans, it gets destroyed because who decided to let Vincent Kennedy McMahon put them up against the early days of AEW and lose in those rating battles? Because this also set up for like 2 or 3 years later after this promo, we got AEW, All Elite to Wrestling, in their infant stages of year one. So Vince wanted to crush the competition. He got a big ego thinking that WWE would beat AEW. So he made NXT go up against them on the Wednesday Night Wars. NXT, while they put on good stuff, they were no context because AEW was slowly creating the alternative during their infant years of wrestling fans who were just so tired. And because of this promo too, were pushed out of wanting to watch the programming. And because of AEW coming into the mix of things, that offered a way for people to still watch really good wrestling, but not want to support or be a part of WWE, who basically, again, middle fingered their fans from promos like this.
Yep. I wonder though, and again, I just want to circle back to this, right? Because looking at Triple H when he does spots now, the way he speaks, everything is a complete 180 to that, right? So, I mean, everyone
Papa
has
H,
their
as we call him now, Papa H.
Right, yeah. Or are we all being had? Is he that good of a performer? I mean, we've seen his performance in Blade 3. So, yeah.
Blood Ray. That's what WWE needs. Bring back the Blood Ray.
Yeah, right. Or was it the chemicals?
That could also be a thing too.
Oh.
The crazy part is that 2010s WWE was the dark ages. I'm not even sugarcoating it, because we got some really fun moments that were then immediately ripped out from underneath us with some bullshit. There were a couple other promos from that era I almost picked, like John Cena burying the Nexus, like after Survivor Series, because John Cena went into business for himself, allegedly. And, he single-handedly defeated the whole entire Nexus team in that match, went backstage, realized that probably wasn't a good idea, and then the following night proceeded to double down by verbally obliterating Wade Barrett, David Otunga, all these folks. Poor Heath Slater, man, it's like, is this Heath Slater or the chick from Wendy's? I'm just like, listen, if you ever yourself into a verbal war with John Cena during his peak, Super Cena phase, you best believe that he will verbally bury you. And Roman almost got buried too, because, the Golden Shovel promo is also one I almost picked, where Roman had enough of John Cena just taking pop shots at him. And so he went off script and told John, is like, all right, John, I was like, you sit here, you're talking all this mess. And it was like, go ahead. Because we all know you're the company guy. They come in to send you when they want to put their newer stars against us. Well, guess what, John? Nobody gets over when you are on the mic, because you always have something to say, and basically says is you verbally here. And Roman Reigns it's like when you talk, you are taking a shovel and you just keep digging and digging new superstars into the ground. And I was like, oh, fuck, Roman's pissed. But that's the same way we all felt, because if you got into a feud with Cena and he got to touch the mic, you're lucky if your career recovered. Thankfully, right. Roman was able to get out of that. But yeah, I was just like, ooh, the 2010s for Monday Night Raw specifically were really tough to get through. And yeah, this promo made lots of fans leave. And then when it bit him in the ass, WWE was like, I kid you not, 3 weeks later, we get another promo from Hunter here. And he's like, guys, we're sorry. We didn't mean, like, they actually had to backtrack on television when they realized, oh, we're losing numbers. Oh, shit, these fans actually do have the power to not have us do very well. So I was just like, one of the few times that wrestling fans know what we're doing, know what we're talking about, and don't treat us like we're stupid or insult our intelligence. They proceeded 3 years later to ruin it again, because then Kofi Kingston got squashed by Brock Lesnar in 5 seconds. And that was the end of Kofi Mania. Sad. It is. But that is it for the promos. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy, bad, not so fun ones, but there's also some good ones. So hopefully for a future episode, we could talk about the promos we actually like.
Indeed.
But now we go into dun 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 hot topics.
Listen to me. Gonna talk about wrestling
topics. Delicious. Wrong jingle.
All right, everyone. So this is Hot Top. This is completely off the cuff. What I did was I went on and I looked at some of the wrestling news that's been going on. I've kind of condensed some topics, and I'm going to put them out. I wanted to get Mikey's thoughts on it. I'll give my thoughts on it, and then please, feel free to chime in and give us your thoughts on some of these. So my first hot topic: AEW talent trouble. Ray Phoenix, Penta, Britt Baker, Ricky Starks. Well, Penta's in WWE, but Ray, Britt, Ricky, all high-value talent who are currently sitting on the AEW bench because they are on the outs with Tony Khan. Mikey, what do you think?
I'm kind of glad you picked this one. So I have always said, and we have always said during our reviews, that from what we hear, the biggest problem AEW has is that there is a lack of communication of like who to report to for certain things and all that stuff. And while there have been some improvements, yeah, there's a lot of questionable things that are happening, and us fans are kind of getting tired of it. So, Britt within the last year or two has had the reports that she's not the funnest to work with, that she creates a toxic environment in the women's locker room. I haven't seen any proof, so I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to remain and abstain from making any preconceived judgments until I hear from, sources and things like that. But yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like it's a bad look if you are a wrestler in a company and you are doing and saying things. You technically have a contract, and for you to say or do things like, for instance, Ray Phoenix, tweeting that he's going to expose the truth and all that stuff. I'm like, sir, you are still under contract. You can't be doing or saying these things. But also, I am a firm believer of, overthrow the system and anarchy, so to speak. So I'm always here to support wrestlers who are just like, bitch, let me out. Like, I don't want to be here no more. And no more than that, than what we have seen with Ricky Starks and what is going on, and feeling like he's being punished for things that is not his fault. Like, I got excited when back in November, he popped up at the GCW show that was happening at the American Dream Mall. Like, I lost my mind. I'm like, oh snap, AEW and GCW, this is gonna be fun. Ricky cuts a promo talking about how, he's fine with sitting at home collecting a check from AEW, but he wants to be back in front of crowds. He wants to wrestle. So he's gonna be in here for GCW for a couple shows, and he gonna wrestle, which made me super excited. And then he got pulled for GCW shows from Tony Khan. Because Effie, I love you because you are the ultimate like chaos gremlin that I aspire to be. But on Effie's podcast, allegedly, he had said some not so nice things about, Tony Khan's dad about in regards to AEW and wrestling. And so while there's no official confirmation, Ricky got pulled because Tony's like, nah, we're going to pull him from the GCW shows. So Ricky now is wrestling, though. He's wrestling at, the Hog events, which is like Mike Santana's promotion and everything. And he's also appearing, he's going to be fighting Kenta for the Defy Wrestling Championship in 2 weeks, which I think that match is going to be great. Check out that watch along. But it's crazy to me. I'm like, for him to do, like, what's going on?
Well, so this, to me, this brings up an interesting issue in that the common thread amongst all these is Tony Khan. Tony Khan does not want. Do we think that, it's that type of situation that, once like in, oh man, what was that? The movie, the one with Robert De Niro and Zoolander, man, where like he's trying to impress the in-laws and Robert De Niro is like, there's a circle, Greg. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like, do we think it's that
Meet the Fockers type of situation?
Right. Yeah. Do we think it's that type of situation that once you're outside of Tony's circle, then that's it? Or do we think that this is just like the AEW roster being so big and having such a lack of communication that, these are people getting caught in that crossfire?
Right. I would, if this would be more inclined to be like, I think it's just because, the roster is so big and like we still got to figure out what we do. But because we have been 5 years in and this has been a persistent problem since the early days of AEW and it just continues to get worse, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, you need to do two things. You need to do either or here. You need to split your roster. I know people are like Dynamite and no, split the roster, have people be on certain shows. At least we can get more screen time with certain characters. No, number two is stop using the same, 10 folks every single week that we tend to see. Right now we have Moxley, Yuta, Claudio, Pac, Marina, and Cope, and then FTR are right now is the big storyline because it's rated FTR versus the Death Riders, which we could spend a whole nother episode talking about how that story is not going the way that it needs to. But I can't believe that Kenny and Will's feud with the Don Callis family is so much more interesting than the story that is revolving around the World Championship. That's wild. But so Tony just needs to let people go, either trim the roster or number three, you need to have more than two storylines going on and more women's action. We can't just keep having one match or one segment a week on Dynamite and Collision. It's ridiculous at this point. Your women's roster is so stacked. You can have 2 or 3 stories on each brand if you wanted to.
# more women's wrestling. So.
Yes.
All right. So now WWE, don't think you're off the hook. I got you. So SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and TNA. Will TNA become the 4th WWE brand? Is that good for TNA?
So the short answer is yes, but not immediately though. I think it's going to be, I am not dumb to say that, oh no, TNA, since they got their new deal under the management of Scott D'Amore with Anthem, which is the parent company to TKO, which is, WE and the UFC. Yes, I eventually think that WWE will probably want to buy TNA and make it their 4th brand, so to speak, because literally TNA has a really good library that WWE definitely can add on to their streaming services and to the Peacock and everything. However, I feel like this is going to be a different kind of hostile takeover than, say, underneath the Vincent Kennedy McMahon regime. If Vince wanted you gone, he will ruin you financially, and he was more vicious, and he just wanted the library. He would take a couple folks, but then everyone would fend it themselves. I feel like that WWE would eventually do a hostile takeover, but it would actually be, I think, under this regime, I think it would be more easy to digest. I mean, we already, prior to them announcing another multi-year partnership between TNA and NXT, the one that we got in 2024 was really solid. We would have the NXT kids come on over to TNA television, get reps in with folks like Masha Slam and Jordan Grace, speaking to the women's division. They got their reps against some champions like, Josh Alexander and Joe Hendry. But then on the flip side, NXT definitely popped during the summer because we had Jordan fight for an NXT Women's Championship against Roxanne in May. Joe Hendry and Ethan Page had a banger match at No Mercy in September. And Joe Hendry became the internet darling of 2 companies, which is fantastic. And so now, fast forwarding to now, literally we had NXT presence this past week. We had Ashanti the Adonis have a match against TNA's Jake Something on the Countdown show for the Genesis pay-per-view. Jordan is finished up with TNA, and she's probably going to be in the Rumble this, upcoming weekend, and she is WWE bound. Josh Alexander is on his way out soon, so I would not be surprised if he goes to WWE. And we're getting like teases. Nathan Frazier and Fraxium defending the NXT Tag Team Championships on the TV show this week for TNA on TNA. We're looking to get Masha Slamovich defending her TNA Knockouts title against Cora Jade of NXT. And realistically, I think that maybe in 4 or 5 years, I would not be surprised if TNA announces that they are merging with NXT/WWE or whatever. I don't know if we'll get to keep the name TNA, but at this point, I'm not worried about it. So yes, I think WWE will buy it out. But in this era, I think it will be beneficial for the wrestlers involved. And then just, the potential for a lot of fun too, especially with this NXT TNA crossover deal that we have set in place for 3 or 4 years.
Okay. All right. So then my last hot topic.
Delicious.
Screaming Slam. So we got AEW on HBO, Max. We have WWE on Netflix. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is an easy answer. The answer is yes. And I feel like a lot of the companies already do that. You mentioned that Raw, especially here in the States, is on Netflix, but it's also on Netflix everywhere else across everything WWE is on Netflix, except for us here in the States. We only get Raw on Netflix, and then I have to watch YouTube TV for NXT and also USA for SmackDown. So the USA has some weird stuff going on. But again, AEW, Dynamite, and Collision are streaming on Max, so you can watch the East Coast feed when it begins immediately. CMLL has their subscriptions-based model on YouTube. Ring of Honor and TNA have their own apps that you can subscribe to, watch the shows for free, or you could pay a little bit. And, because of what we do here, I push out the $200 for TNA a year, but that gives me all the live weekly shows when they air, access to the back catalog of the history of TNA, back in the day. And it also gives me all of the pay-per-views, including TNA's Big Four, which they usually charge separately as a part of that $200 price plus. And that to me is worth it. So yes, I believe that we're going to start seeing a lot. And honestly, that's what Triller/Fight TV is for too. Like GCW, if you're part of the Fight TV subscription for $7.99 a month, you get all the GCW shows live and, don't have to pay any extra. You get to see some fights and a lot of other independent wrestling promotions on there too, like Hog and Progress Wrestling is now on Fight TV, which makes me super excited. Love me some UK wrestling. But
come on, hop on that boat.
Seriously, I'm so excited to be bringing Progress here for 2025. But yeah, I feel like wrestling kind of has to in this digital age. You have to either, whether it's on your own platform, on a syndicated network. 2025, I think wrestling companies need to get on the digital stuff. We will probably start seeing more digital stuff. But I also think it's because a lot of it is digital based that there are so many options for wrestling fans of what to watch. Specifically talking about here, us in the States, we have, YouTube TV and Netflix to watch WWE programming. We have Max for AEW programming, and according to reports, I heard that Amazon is looking to start having
the pay-per-views and all that.
Pay-per-views, which is crazy to me. Fight TV holds Progress, and GCW, TNA, and Ring of Honor are doing pretty well with their subscription base with their apps. I like TNA's a little bit more because it's user-friendly. Ring of Honor, you need to get on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of have to in this day and age, in 2025. And it's because of that, I also feel like there's more options for people to watch stuff.
Yep.
And to also and not have to wait like in the old days. If you missed it, you have to wait until midnight to watch the rerun on cable network. Now, as soon as it's over, I can go at or even when I'm an hour late to the show, Max, I can click and watch Dynamite from the beginning, even if it's still going on live currently. So yeah.
All right, that's it. Those are the hot topics.
Delicious.
So yeah, please, in the comments, if you want, chime in on any of these hot topics. We'll go through. If we see something good, I will shout it out at a future video thing. I think that's it, Mike.
Yes, that is it. So thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of season 2 of the BC Wrestle Pod. We talked about the worst promos in wrestling history, according to us, and talked a little bit about some hot topics. So when we come back for February's episode, you guys, February is Valentine's. It is the month of love, brotherly and romantically and lustfully in some cases. So I think that it is only fair that even though the episode is going to be happening way after Valentine's Day, our next episode, season 2, episode 2, Love is in the Air, where we are going to put out different scenarios. And essentially, we're going to be playing an hour-long game of F, Marry, Kill with a whole bunch of options.
Oh, good
so
Lord.
we're also going to talk about wrestlers we love to hate. And again, these episodes are meant to be nonsensical, goofy, and also, what a better way. I mean, we are the Biconic, so let us ogle in our favorites and our dislikes. So there we go.
Indeed.
So put the kids to bed because it is not safe out here. Yes, might need a content warning. No, I'm gonna be honest. Depending who ends up on the panel, things are gonna get spicy really fast. So it is. That episode is gonna be a rated 18+ stream. So if you are not 18 or older, y'all need to come back when you turn 18, or bootleg this later down the line. But yes, we're gonna have so much fun with this. It's gonna be ridiculous, but that's what these episodes are meant for. So from myself and Adolfo and the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod family, that is us wrapping it up tonight for this episode. We got a busy week ahead of us, so make sure to tune in for all the good stuff. AEW on Tuesday, a double dose of NXT and CMLL on Wednesday. Thursday, the GCW crew would be back to review the Live in London show, which was GCW crossing over with Progress Wrestling, which makes me super excited to talk about. Friday, the TNA squad will be here to review another episode. And then we culminate into the weekend where the WWE boys are pulling double duty with the Royal Rumble watch-along this Saturday, February 1st. And the review the following day, Sunday, February 2nd. So, if you love anything and everything wrestling, make sure to come by, stop by. We've been having some real fun. Even though he wasn't specifically in here, Mr. Smith, who has found us randomly, been chiming in the last 2 shows that we've been doing. So, happy to have him as a new subscriber and a fan. So, yeah, make sure to follow us on all over the social medias. And for myself and Adolfo, and the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod familia here on the internet, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Biconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.